I just picked up 3 non-fantasy tabletop role-playing games that I think are totally awesome, and I just have to share them with you. First up, we have Ink by Grace Collins, published by Snowbright Studios. And in this game, players are ghosts that navigate the underworld purgatory called the Ink. Well, actually, you play as a spirit and a shadow kind of combined or linked. So a ghost is someone who's died and they do all of the social and environmental conflicts. And the shadow is like a physical manifestation that handles all of the physical conflict. So the resolution mechanic is really simple. You roll 2d6 and add 2 if you have a skill that applies. You're trying to beat a 7. There's this cool coin flipping mechanic. It's a karma system that you and the GM are constantly flipping this karma coin back and forth that also gives bonuses. And I think the other cool mechanic is when you're in a physical conflict with your shadow form, all of the players choose their action and the GM chooses their action at the same time, and then everybody reveals it and all of the actions kind of get resolved at the same time. And now that I'm thinking about it, this sort of spirit and shadow thing with the shadows having the combat abilities, there's probably a cool Pokemon game in here somewhere that would be really easy to hack ink into a Pokemon game. But anyway, the players, they sail around the ink, this dangerous ocean purgatory place, and they're gonna battle fiends and sort of unravel their past life, all in an effort to try and escape. In the book, there's a really cool outline for prepping an adventure as the GM. You know, the players are going to travel from island and island. They're called keys in the game. It's kind of like a point crawl, and they're going to confront lesser fiends, and then there's like in-between islands, and then eventually they'll get to confront a greater fiend, which these giant monsters, they hang around the passage beacon, which is where the spirits can go to try and escape. And the greater fiends are super cool. They eat souls, and each of them has a theme. So like there's one called the Scrap Mantis. It's a giant bug made out of machine parts, and it's got all these abilities and stuff. And the theme is all about hoarding and greed, and you know, you can have this adventure that sort of unravels with a theme that applies to your character's backstory as a ghost. The rest of the book is filled with common enemies and random tables for filling out the adventure. All kinds of elixirs and powers and sea encounters. I think this is a super cool game, and what sort of got my attention was the ink, the sort of dark ocean purgatory place in my own like homebrew world. I call it the Gloom Tide, and it's a very similar idea that it's this vast ocean in the underworld where all the spirits get trapped. I actually have a system neutral adventure called the Temple of the Waking Thread that's all about rescuing someone from the Gloom Tide, bringing them back to life. But I actually think this ink game would be super fun if you had a total party kill, but you wanted to keep playing. You could run a session or 2 of ink and sort of see if your player characters can escape back into the world from the ink or the Gloom Tide or whatever you want to call your underworld ocean full of ghosts. Next up, we have Space Aces by Stephen Hands. This is a Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy inspired game. Players are going to go on a totally wacky, whimsical, fun adventure through space. It's got a really fun, simple, easy to run play mechanic, and this is totally my kind of game. So the basic resolution mechanic is rolling a d20 and also a d6. So it's your standard roll a d20, add your ability modifier to try and beat a difficulty score. But the d6 is a complication dice. So you roll it, nothing gets added or subtracted to it. If you roll a 1 or a 2, there's some sort of cost that happens. And if you roll a 5 or a 6, there's some sort of benefit that happens. And I absolutely love this. It's really simple, and it makes rolling dice just a little bit more interesting. You know, it's not just a pass or a fail. There's some sort of complication to it, and it just makes playing more interesting. As you play and roll poorly, it builds your heat score, which is, everybody in the party has the same heat score. And it's just a cool way to up the narrative cost as the adventure goes on. It's kind of like Grand Theft Auto or something. The more heat you have, the more cops are showing up, or the more dangerous things get for you. Now, in this new guidebook, there are 5 stats listed, but there's actually a bigger version called Voyages in the Infinite Space. And in that book, instead of having 5 stats, there's no stats at all. Players are choosing their career, their space towel, and their knack. And all of these are just simple words to choose from that you can apply however you want. So some example knacks are trick shots, or raised by wolves, or sorta telepathic. And for me personally, this is my absolute favorite way to play tabletop role-playing games. You don't have a complicated list of skills or all these descriptions that you're trying to keep up with and remember and apply in the best possible way. You just have these evocative tags that you can think about and then dream up whatever you want your character to do. And if you can justify how it happens, how it works in the story, then it gives a bonus to your roll. Instead of HP, you have gumption, so it's actually a resource that you can lose outside of combat, which I think is super appropriate for this type of game and its inspiration. There's also some advice for running the game, which is always appreciated. And then the rest of the book is all random inspiration tables for building fun adventures. There's ruins and monsters and ships, all kinds of stuff. There's rules for space combat. And then there's this awesome MacGuffin maker that I think is just so cool. I have to figure out a way to implement this kind of thing in my own work. I know this type of random table, a visual random table, is common in a lot of solo game oracles and stuff, but I just think this is so inspiring and fun. Just so awesome. I'm so glad that a bunch of people in my Discord recommended Space Aces to me. I think we were talking about space combat, and this game's space combat is very similar to what Kyle came up with for our Starboard game, or Star Wars inspired Morkborg hack that just came out on the Patreon, if that sounds fun. Anyway, this game is super cool. It's just the right mix for me of that simple and fun and inspiring, and I am just totally in love with Space Aces. Moving on from whimsical adventures in outer space to killing Nazis as vampires, we have Eat the Reich, and this game, wow. Okay, let's just start with the insane, awesome book design of this crazy game. There's multiple types of spot gloss on the cover. The cover is die cut and French flaps, and even though it's a soft cover, the insides are Smith sewn, so it's going to be a really sturdy book. And the 4 edges have been painted neon pink. And when you open up a new hardcover that's never been opened, it kind of makes that cracking sound. Well, when I opened this book, because of the painted edges, it sounded like I was breaking bones. It was the craziest sound. Now, I wish I could show you, but now the book just kind of squeaks, which isn't so menacing and vampire-ish. But anyway, I point all of that out because I feel like if you put this much effort into the presentation of the book, you can just automatically tell that a lot of care and thought has gone into making the actual game. Eat the Reich was written by Grant Howitt, and all of the art and design was done by Will Kirkby, and man, the art in this is so awesome, as you can tell while I'm flipping through this book. Now, because of the theme and the setting of this game, I think it's really awesome that the first 10 pages of this book are all about how to set up expectations for your players and how to tackle this subject matter in a responsible but also fun way. So your players are going to choose from one of 6 vampires during World War II. Each of them is super cool and would be fun to play. They each have these awesome big full-page portraits, everything, all of their abilities and stuff, very thematic. You got a zombie cowboy from America. There's an ex-fighter fighter pilot vampire. There's this huge bat creature that may or may not be able to talk, and I think that's a super fun way to play a character through a one-shot. So the players get dropped down into Paris in these coffins, like rocketed down, and they actually splatter and die inside the coffins, but a bunch of nuns have donated blood, and the blood gets injected into the vampires, so they come back to life. Total craziness. So mechanically, this game uses the Havoc system, which I guess a lot of the other Rowan Rook and Deckard games use, Spire and Heart. I haven't had a chance to play those games before, but I've also noticed a few like cool Blades in the Dark type stuff in here as well. So the players are going to be rolling pools of D6s based on their stats. 4s and 5s are good, 6s are better, everything else gets discarded. They can add extra D6s to the pool for their equipment and abilities. The GM is going to be making opposing rolls at the same time based on whatever the players are interacting with, whether it's an enemy or the environment or whatever. And the cool thing is, it's not just the basic like initiative order, fight and encounter type stuff. You use these pools of dice to like assign values and really move the story along. So you can assign a value to deal damage to an enemy in the typical way, but you can also do stuff like advancing objectives, like each of the areas that you visit has different objectives. You can do stuff like feeding on Nazi blood or activating special moves. And it all just seems like it keeps the game moving really, really fast, which is good because as players, you're trying to move through these locations in Paris, get to the Eiffel Tower, up into Hitler's Zeppelin so you can drink his blood and end the war. There's so much awesome information on how to build out this mission, this one-shot mission, and how to run the game. And there's this awesome map with all the locations that the players are going to battle their way through. Of course, each location has descriptions of what's going on there, what the players need to accomplish before moving on to the next area. And then the bosses, there's the Rust Witch, and Hitler has this mutated werewolf guard dog that you have to fight your way through. The art in this book is just so crazy awesome. I'm blown away, and just the art alone gets me excited to play. But also, it's just a super fun idea. I definitely think you have to have the right group to play this game, but I also think that it's sort of heavy material presented in a fun, bombastic way, but it's done so thoughtfully. I'm just really impressed by Eat the Reich, and I can't wait to play it. Okay, let me know what you think of these 3 games, and also let me know if there's some other games that I should check out down in the comments. If you'd like to support the channel and these videos, I have an online shop where I sell my own tabletop role-playing game zines and pins and stickers. I also have a Patreon where I release those tabletop role-playing game zines every month. Right now, I am working on Starborg with my friend Kyle from MapCrow YouTube channel. The first zine, the Rebel Handbook, is out, available now digitally on Patreon. I'm very proud of the work we've done on that book. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. See ya!